Hey everybody, this is Benna Dorch. Welcome to TapRooT TV. I'm really super excited to have Mark Paradise with me again today. The conversations we have are just so interesting and they're so great.
We have fun at it.
We have a great time doing it, and we hopefully put out some good information out there for you all to help with you cutting down on your incidents, saving lives. And Mark is so generous with his knowledge and sharing, and you know, that's one of the things I like about what we do for a living. It's like there's no competition out there between companies to do what we do.
You're going to get me started on saving lives and the importance of saving lives, so let's not go there.
That is so important.
That's a different talk.
But that is what we're going to talk about.
All right, well, I guess
but what we want to talk about today, it kind of falls in line with what Mark and I kind of started talking about a couple of weeks ago. And that is why we still have major process safety accidents. And Mark, you wrote a blog article about that. We'll have a link to it.
I think it's been, what, over 25 years since the process safety management regulation came into being here in the United States. Slightly different time frames in different other places around the world, different regulations in different places around the world, but they all, I guess there's sort of a worldwide approach to process safety, and it starts off with some good practices like having procedures and training your operators and management of change when you're going to make some big change in the facility. And then most approaches have some kind of HAZOP or other kind of proactive analysis that you're supposed to go out and analyze what could go wrong with your facility and then take action to reduce the risk.
Yeah, we like proactive.
That's all good. That's all good. The problem is all that stuff, it varies from company to company, industry to industry, place to place. And what should fix that is the next step, and that is your incident investigations.
Yes.
So you should be looking for precursor incidents, things that could have been worse, and that's telling you, A, you didn't do a good hazard analysis, there's a piece missing,
right,
or you don't have a good procedure, or you don't have good training, or you're not doing well. It should tell you what's going wrong with your safeguards.
Yes.
And the problem I've observed, and I think it's probably one of the biggest problems in industries that implement process safety, is that they start thinking, well, we're only going to save our best root cause analysis for the big accidents.
Right.
The little accidents, the low consequence accidents, we're going to do, we don't need a big investigation for those because they're low consequence.
Yes.
And when you look at process safety incidents, a huge majority of them are low consequence because you have multiple safeguards. And in some cases with big hazards, you might have 10 or 12 safeguards in place to deal with that hazard. So it's very unlikely that all 12 are going to fail, right? So your process safety incident is 1 failing, or 2 failing, or 4 failing, or 6 failing. And hey, there was still, even at the worst, there were still 6 left.
Right.
So that's a minor consequence incident, and we're going to do 5 whys. We're going to ask ourselves why 5 times. We're going to implement one of the corrective actions. We're going to retrain.
Yes.
We're going to refresh. We're going to re-emphasize. Or maybe we're going to do the standard 3, the training, the procedures, or the discipline. And that's all that gets done. And that doesn't do much to strengthen your safeguards.
Right.
So we had weak safeguards to start with. We've got weak safeguards still. And in some cases, it isn't even 6 safeguards left. It's all that was left was luck.
Right.
You know, a good day, you had the release, the hazardous material, the flammable material, the explosive material, it got released, but it didn't find an ignition source.
Right.
So that day, luck kept you safe. And that one may be big enough, they may recognize that gets a good root cause analysis. But what if it was one back from that? If it was one back from that and the release didn't occur, well then maybe they wouldn't do anything. Or, you know, another one is we've had leaks, but the leaks never have been in an area where it caused a problem. But today we get a leak where it causes a problem. And so people don't do, and this is my opinion, very good root cause analysis on these precursor incidents.
And then they have ineffective corrective actions.
Well, okay, so you could even do a good investigation and have ineffective corrective actions. And that gets back to recognizing what we teach in our courses. We have a modified, I guess I'd call it, I wouldn't call it pyramid, I'd call it levels of effectiveness of corrective actions. And the bottom ones are things like improving procedures and providing some more training and counseling people to be more careful, and those are very minimal corrective actions. And the top of the scale, the most consequential, are eliminating the hazard or eliminating the target so that the thing can't happen again. Or at least reducing the hazard so that it's going to have less consequence if it does happen.
So when somebody decides to use 5 whys with one of these lower consequence types incidents, what is the problem with that?
Okay. I've written a bunch of stuff, and if you go to the blog post, I've got like 4 different articles you can read on what's wrong with 5 whys.
And we're linking to that.
I don't want to talk about that because I've talked about 5 whys too much. But I would just say, reflect on your own experience. You've seen 5 whys. In fact, you've seen a majority of 5 whys where it depended on the experience of the person as to how good the 5 whys were. You've seen 5 whys where they concentrated on one problem and left a whole bunch of other problems untouched. You've seen 5 whys where they really didn't get to the causes of human performance problems because the people asking the whys really don't understand what causes human performance problems.
And your biases can get in the way.
Exactly. You've seen 5 whys where somebody knew the answer to start with, so that's the answer they found. So you really don't. There's a lot of problems with 5 whys, and you look at some of those articles and they'll tell you technically why it happens, the psychology behind why it happens, or you can just look at the results you've seen and say, we don't do a very good job on 5 whys. Now, you get people who all the time say, well, my 5 whys are good. I don't know about everybody else's, but if they just ask why more, or if they just have better knowledge, then they do well. And it's hard to argue with those people because then you've got to look at their example and point out why their example wasn't very good. But even if you are really good at asking why 5 times, is everybody at your company very good at it? Is that a good practice that you can train that everybody can be as good as you? And usually it isn't. So
that's where systematic
I don't want to insult people about their ability to ask why. But the whole process of asking why has problems. So
and if you want to see more about that, in his article that we're linking to in the comments, you have numerous articles on that, so they can go to that. You said something very interesting in it that this made you think about how many major incidents have happened that the precursors were investigated with 5 whys, and I think
that's the check. If you think we're doing a good job on our incident investigation, and this is across the industry, we have TapRooT users who use TapRooT for their major investigations but don't use it for their minor ones. So there's lots of people who can check on this. Go to your last major accident you had. Go to your last major accident and say, what were the precursor incidents? What were the ones where these same safeguards failed in the past? And let's see why we didn't do a good job of fixing those. And what you're going to find is, A, we didn't do a very good job of investigating them. And so the hardest ones to find are the ones where you didn't even identify the safeguard failed. They'll have some of those if you look really hard. Secondly, you'll find that you found the safeguard failed and you didn't do very good root cause analysis, so your corrective actions weren't very good. And third thing you'll find is, well, you found some things that sort of look like root causes, but your corrective actions weren't very good. So, in TapRooT, we've built the system. So, first thing you do is find out what happened. And that gets you a good, complete picture of the whole incident. And in that way, you're trying not to leave any hazards or any safeguards not identified. You want to identify all the failed safeguards. Then you take each of those safeguards and you analyze them with the root cause tree and you get good root causes. Then you can look at those root causes and the safeguards you had and decide, do I have enough safeguards or do I need more? Or maybe do I need to re-engineer this whole process and change it because the safeguards we have just aren't good enough for the risk this hazard poses.
Right.
And we really need to scrap this whole thing. That's a possibility. It's not very likely you're going to take that for a majority of your incidents, but it could happen. And finally, you're going to say, well, why didn't we develop better? If we found the root causes,
right,
why didn't we develop better corrective actions? And we've had users say, you know, when we first started implementing TapRooT, guys kept doing the same old corrective actions, and that's part of why we developed Corrective Action Helper.
That's a great guide. What a tool.
Yeah, and that is to help people, especially on the human performance side, approach corrective actions differently. So the corrective actions from the Corrective Action Helper are trying to strengthen the safeguards you already have, but you're also looking, do I need more safeguards, or are these safeguards not strong enough? One of our users had an incident where they put out a bad quality product. And the problem, they had a flaw in the product. And the funny part about it was, they were doing 100% testing of these because it was very important that they all went right. And the guy tested it, found the flaw, but put it in the wrong stack.
Oh dear.
So the last human action was sort it to go back for melting and rework, or put it in the good stack.
Right.
And he was so used to it's all good that he put the bad one in the good stack. And it was caught at the place where they were going to use it. The problem was caught.
Yeah.
But it was very embarrassing for them.
Sure.
Because they were doing this 100% inspection, and they went back and said, well, gosh, the only safeguard for this, the only thing between getting it right and getting it wrong was which stack the guy put it in. And I thought the really smart thing they asked themselves is, well, we found this single safeguard in this condition. How many other single safeguard examples do we have at our facility? And we need to go look at all of our processes and make sure we've got redundancy in our safeguards so that it isn't just a single human error causes us to put out a bad product.
That's really great.
So that's what you're looking at with TapRooT. And that's a quality example, but the same kind of things happen on the process safety side.
Yes.
Usually on the process safety side, it's multiple safeguards, not just a single safeguard. But even if you have, let's say it's 4 human performance safeguards. Well, they're all human performance safeguards. Maybe you decide that isn't strong enough. You know, you look at the odds of a person making a mistake, and you say, well, the odds are maybe 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000. If they're really, really good, well, if 4 doesn't get you to the reliability you need, maybe you need to change that process. Maybe you need a higher reliability than that. So that's the way to think about it.
So these major process safety accidents that keep happening,
they are indicators of what?
That you did not do a good root cause analysis on those precursor incidents
or
leading up to.
Or take good corrective actions. So let's just say...
I didn't know I was going to have a test.
let's just say, if you know that you're not going to do perfect procedures, you know you're not going to do perfect training, you know you're not going to do perfect HAZOPs, what's your test for those? Your test is real life experience. And your real life experience is telling you where your problems are. And in 25 years, you should have gotten to the point where there's very few of these happening. And I guess I'd say there are very few. But across industry, I keep hearing, well, we haven't progressed that much from the early 90s or sometimes the 70s.
Right.
And so if we haven't progressed in 20, 25, 30 years, it must be because we aren't fixing things and improving our safeguards. If we were, then these accidents wouldn't be happening because we would have figured them all out by now because they all have precursors.
Yes.
They all tell us what's wrong, and we have to listen and get that fixed.
I love what you said about going back and taking some of those and testing, going and seeing. Could you say you did that with the 5 whys, go back and run it through the root cause tree?
It could, okay, so the hard part about going back and reanalyzing one precursor incident that happened 10 years ago is the first thing you're going to find is, they didn't do a very good job collecting information. So you were going to try to draw a snap chart and you're going to go,
a lot of memory.
There's no question. They didn't ask the right questions.
Right.
They didn't document the right things so that I can draw a good snap chart. And you can't
Yeah.
All you can say is they had a lot of unanswered questions, and you don't know what they really were.
Yeah.
So you know you had failed safeguards. Those are usually detailed in there, but you don't know why they happened. And that's where you're going to go through the root cause tree, because you don't have the answers to go through the root cause tree because they didn't know to ask the right whys.
And we've simplified TapRooT system for these types of things. We've streamlined it so
We've got, I should brought a copy of the book with me.
You should
The Essentials
have.
book. I should have
The
held it up
Essentials
right now.
book
The Essentials
is so,
book,
you can find it on our
which is
website
on
in
our
our
website.
store.
If
Yeah.
you go to the store, go to books, and then you'll have all the books there, and the one that says Essential TapRooT Techniques, that's the one that we took. What people ask me is, what's the minimum thing you think you ought to do for a good investigation?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did for that, the minimum I think somebody should doing. So that is if you're doing a precursor incident,
Right.
which is important.
Very.
Precursor incidents are important.
We learned that a
People
couple
like
of weeks
to say
ago
it's a low
talking.
consequence.
No.
It is low consequence this
Now.
time, but it may not be low consequence next time. And so it's really important to do those precursor incidents, especially in process safety, so that you get rid of those and you don't have the major accidents. We never want to see one of our clients have a major
Oh, we
accident.
don't.
We want them to fix them as precursors. That's
Yes.
the whole idea.
That's a great idea, and I love that now we have the ability because people don't want to get into the
Well,
whole
I think
full-blown
we've
thing.
always had the ability to do that.
Yeah.
It's people didn't understand that this is what I really need to do. These are the
Yeah.
things I really need to do. This is the bare essentials. And when you get down to that, you find out, well, this isn't much harder.
It's not.
Than doing a bad investigation.
Right, and
so-
the bad investigation is going to make things much harder down the road.
And the good investigation is going to strengthen your safeguards, which will make accidents and incidents, the big ones, less likely in the future. And what you really want to see, and what we have seen at client sites, is that they stop having the big accidents. Even when they've had them in the past, and they have a whole history of having big accidents, they get rid of them. And even places that, let's see, how do I say this? Some places don't have big accidents anymore.
Right.
But they have what they call high potential incidents. And we've even seen places get rid of their high potential incidents because they did such a good job on the precursors to the high potentials that they got rid of the high potentials. So there you're getting even one step further back from having the big accidents.
That's great. I mean, there are so many things people can be doing to stop those major accidents from happening, from whether you're out there auditing, being proactive, looking for things, or when these precursor incidents come up, do the essentials type TapRooT investigation on them, and do it right. Do it right the first time.
It is becoming my quest this year is to get people to do a better job on the small stuff so that they don't have the big stuff. Because you don't want to see fatalities.
No.
You don't want to see big fires. You don't want to see explosions, even if nobody gets hurt.
Right.
It's such a black eye for the industry.
Well, it hurts the people working there. It's the money. It's just
all those things.
Right.
You just don't want to have it happen.
You didn't want to talk about it earlier, but
You got me there anyhow.
I did. Well, that's what we're here for, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
We do have that book. The Essentials book is on our website.
And you get it when you go to the 2-day course.
You go to that's the best thing to do.
That's what the 2-day course teaches.
That is the best thing to do. You get in there and you get that practice, and you'll see really quickly that doing a TapRooT root cause analysis investigation is not. It doesn't have to be that difficult.
The 2-day course teaches you the essential techniques to use on precursor incidents.
Yes.
And so if you want to get a bunch of people who can get out there and do a good investigation of precursor incidents, that's the way to train them.
That's our quest this year. That's our quest. It is.
Let's hope it's not tilting windmills, right?
Exactly. If you want more information on how to get trained in TapRooT, go to our website, taproot.com, and go to our courses page. It lists all of our 2-day, 5-day, any courses we have. There's some specialty courses on there you can get at our summit, which will be in less than a year.
Yep.
But we can even come on site and do some of those. So just contact us.
If they're looking at this on Facebook, they can contact us on Facebook.
Yes.
If they're looking at this on our website, there's the Contact Us button.
Yeah, email us.
You can call our phone number, 865-548-0800. Oh, that's not. No, it's
That's your
I'm
number.
throwing my number out.
539-2139.
That's it. 865-539-2139.
Yes.
And the info@taproot.com
Yes.
for those who want to email us.
Very easy way to get a hold of us.
Yep.
Follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're putting information like this out all of the time. Every business day, we are pushing information out there to help you with your performance improvement programs. So, Mark, thank you so much for joining
for
me
having me on
again.
TapRooT
It's
TV,
always
Benna.
a pleasure, and we didn't have any technical issues that we know of so far.
So far, we've done
All right.
a zero-issue day. We must
love
be
it.
doing good root cause analysis
we
to
are.
eliminate the causes of our accidents.
That's the plan.
That's it.
System improvements. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Bye.
We'll see you next week.